It's a new day dawning, the time is at hand, where the glory of the Lord will be revealed to every man. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in.
The King of Glory in. Open up the door starts right now. So fling wide you heavenly gates and prepare the way of the risen Lord. The Apostle John was on the island of Patmos. He was in prison for the testimony of Jesus Christ, and he heard a sound behind him, and he turned around, he looked, he said, behold, there was a door standing before me, open in heaven, and heard a voice which was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place. That's what we need, my friends. We need a heavenly perspective of the things that are going on in the world around us, the things that the Word of God foretold us would come to pass, those things which must take place, those things which are taking place even now. That is what this broadcast is all about, discussing the issues of the day, discerning the times in which we live from a biblical perspective and worldview. Good afternoon, everybody. Andy White here. What you are about to hear is the fusion of heart, mind, and soul. And I want to welcome everybody from all across the fruited plain and all around the, you know what it is, the spherical globe. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors from the east end of Long Island on Faith FM. Hey, listen, I am streaming live this broadcast on my YouTube page, my Open Up the Doors YouTube page. If you'd like to join in the conversation over there, let me know where you are listening from all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. Love to, and if you've never liked or subscribed, I should say, to the YouTube page, please subscribe to my YouTube page as well as my Faith FM Facebook page, Open Up the Doors Facebook page, I should say, which is at facebook.com/faithfm 91.7. I do believe the link for the YouTube is up there. If it's not, Debbie, please get that up there on Facebook. I did not get a chance to do that. But also, if you are outside of the Faith FM broadcast area, the best way to listen to Faith FM is to download the free Faith FM app. We have the app available for your Android platform, for your Apple platform, in their respective app stores, the Google Play, the Apple App Store. Just, do the search, Faith FM, if you are outside of the broadcast area. Best way to listen to Faith FM 24/7, all around the spherical globe and all across the fruited plain. I just like saying that. So, hey, folks, thanks for tuning in today. God bless each and every one of you. If you'd like to email me, by the way, you can email me at ajwhite777 at icloud.com, ajwhite777 at icloud.com. So this week I am going to, I think that takes care of all my preliminaries anyway. If not, I'll think about them later. I want to get on with the broadcast because as always, I have way more on the plate than I could feed you out in an hour's time. But I'm going to continue with what I began last week, looking at this, looking at the expose. I'm calling it an expose, along with my thoughts and a little piece of my mind, because that is what the fusion of heart, mind, and soul is all about. Giving you a little piece of my mind about the issues of the day. A lot of people out there are talking about the Great Reset. There are videos galore out there, so I'm kind of, part of me says I just don't want to add to the cacophony of it all, but I have my own viewpoints, of course, and have my own insights, I hope, and I just want to bring this audience into what's going on. So I began last week, as you know, if you tuned into last week, with this expose of the Great Reset. And in the last edition of Open Up the Doors, I laid out the basic framework, narrative, and the foundation of what is being called the Great Reset Initiative by the World Economic Forum. And on this broadcast, I want to continue really to lay out before you what their plans are, what their agenda is, and I want to try and do it in the most simplest terms, because in the most simplest terms, the practical aim of the Great Reset is to fundamentally restructure the world's economy and geopolitical relations in order to centrally control. Love that word? The autocrats love that word, centrally control, because they want to centrally control and manage every possible single thing in your life. Now, the slogan that's been used, the slogan that is used for this fundamental restructuring is, and I know you've probably all heard it before, especially in the recent presidential campaign, the slogan for the Great Reset is Build Back Better, which Joe Biden copped for his campaign. Now, before I get really into more of that and build on that, I want to begin by playing a little game with you today. I want to play, can you name that voice? Remember that old show, Name That Tune? Well, today we're going to play, can you name that voice? Can you tell me who that is who's speaking? Got a little bit of a montage here. So those of you who are on the live stream, get ready to type in your answers, because I will review your answers. I want to see how many of you on the live stream can recognize these voices. So here we go. You ready, folks? And I have the list. I copied the list of characters in this montage. Here we go.
In a positive way.
I have launched a booklet called Build Back Better, Britain After Coronavirus.
It's about building this country back better.
Growing conspiracy following it. It is called the Great Reset.
An unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset the ways in which we live.
The great opportunity for reset.
The theory even calls Mr. Biden's campaign slogan, Build Back Better, a front for the conspiracy.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Build back better.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
It's a big effort some would say to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
Conspiracy.
That's what the mainstream media keeps calling it. So I'm looking here on my chat for those folks. I asked you to tell me who you think you heard in there, what those voices were, unless you're all didn't want to, I don't know. Anyway, we had Tony Blair in there. We had Greta Thunberg in there. We had Andrew Cuomo in there, governor of New York. I'm sure you all recognize Hillary Clinton's voice and Nancy Pelosi's voice. And then there was Bill Clinton, Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of Britain there, Elizabeth Warren, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Gates. I'm giving you all the answers here, of course. Kamala Harris. And the list goes on. It ended with Antonio Guterres, who's the head of the UN, and the last voice was the founder of the World Economic Forum and his brainchild for the Great Reset, Build Back Better, Klaus Schwab. Now, folks, by the way, the voices in there, in that little clip, in that little montage that was saying conspiracy theory, those were two voices, two people from the mainstream media. And that's what I liked about this montage, because all these world leaders are all are they all giving in to this conspiracy theory? Are they all just plagiarizing each other? Are they just mindlessly parroting one another? Where did they get that phrase come from, Build Back Better? Well, it came from Klaus Schwab, as I said a moment ago, the founder of the World Economic Forum. We must build our systems back better, and we have to reinvent capitalism in order to do it, as I shared with you all in the last broadcast last week. But there's one thing about the media calling it a conspiracy theory, they're half right. It is a conspiracy. They are right. But it's not a conspiracy theory. It's an actual out in plain sight, in your face agenda by the global elites for them to gain and maintain their power and consolidate their power and control over you. And they are flat out telling us what they are doing. It's all over the place. Build back better. Build back better. Build back better. It's all over the place. Build back better. But for who? For who? Be assured it's not for me and you. I mean, don't you just love it? Don't you just love it? When the people who corrupted and ruined the system then turn around and tell you that they have the solution to fixing the system. Build back better for who? As one economist I read this week noted, quotes, ultimately, the Great Reset will result, in two tiers of people. The technocratic elite, who have all the power and rule over all assets, and then the rest of humanity, who have no power, no assets, and no say-so in anything. Yeah, build back better. But for who? I'll say it again, rest assured, it's not for me and you. With the stroke of a pen this past week, Joe Biden, with his Build Back Better campaign, with the stroke of a pen this past week, Joe Biden wiped out 11,000 jobs immediately. And that 11,000 jobs that he wiped out by closing down and stopping the construction of the Keystone Pipeline, that 11,000 will rapidly grow to 60,000 jobs accumulatively that emanated and were attached to the Keystone Pipeline. Ostensibly, this was done in the name of a Green New Deal to control climate change. Build back better. Except here's a problem, folks. This is an immensely important point. The stopping of the construction of the pipeline won't stop one drop of oil from being produced or being brought to market. Not one drop. The oil will still be pumped, and it will still be brought to market by rail, by truck, and other means. It'll be shipped to China by oil tanker. That oil is going to be distributed, and it's going to get to the market. All in the name of climate change. Now, the climate change geniuses who thought shutting down the pipeline is helping to save the planet are either completely disingenuous or they are completely stupid. Personally, I think it's both. Because the truth is, when you build pipelines to transport oil and gas, you're doing it in a much cleaner and safer way than, let's say, transporting it by truck or train or tanker. The interesting part about the train situation that this oil is going to be transported on is that the train and the railroad is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, it's owned by Warren Buffett, a mega donor, billionaire mega donor, who's on board with the Green New Deal, ostensibly, who's on board and gave lots and lots of campaign money to Joe Biden. Funny how that works, huh? Let's shut down the construction workers. Let's put these people immediately out of work. By the way, Joe Biden said he was going to, fight for unions. Out of those 11,000 jobs, 8,000 of them were union workers. But I digress a little bit. My point here is being that by the metrics that these climate change wackos use, the rerouting by rail and by oil tanker will be more dangerous, more expensive, and more environmentally damaging. But here's the real thing. In their minds, they're celebrating because we overturned what Trump did. We need to send a message to Orange Man bad. We need to send a clear message. And what might that clear message be? We hate Trump more than we care about climate change. Yeah, that's the ironic truth for you in all of this, my friends. Build back better. But for who? Hey, I got something here right hot off the presses. This wasn't even in my original notes for today, but coming in to the studio here, I saw this come across my news feed, and lo and behold, wow, you can't get away from building back better. Today, as a matter of fact, Biden's pick for his energy secretary cabinet position is being grilled and interviewed by the Senate. And this just came across the blaze earlier. Biden's energy secretary nominee admits some jobs may be, quote unquote, sacrificed to achieve climate change. But don't worry, she says, there will be new ones someday. Oh, I got to read you this, folks, because it's so priceless. President Biden's nominee for Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm admitted Wednesday, actually, I guess that was yesterday. I thought it was today. My mistake. This happened yesterday. I just saw it in my news stream today. But anyway, she admitted yesterday during her confirmation hearing that some jobs in the oil and gas industry may be sacrificed as part of the administration's climate agenda. The exchange began when Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, the ranking member of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, noted that tens of thousands of jobs could be lost in states like New Mexico and Wyoming and Colorado if Biden's new executive order pausing oil and gas leases on federal land is extended. A long-term ban on oil and gas leasing would cost about 62,000 jobs in New Mexico, about 33,000 jobs in Wyoming, about 18,000 jobs in Colorado, Barrasso assessed before directing the question to Granholm. His question to Granholm, quote, I'm just curious how a long-term ban consistent with the president's goal of unifying our country and putting Americans back to work and helping our economies grow, how is that all consistent, he said. Now listen to her answer. In response, Granholm stated, quote, I think the president's plan of building back better would create more jobs in energy, clean energy, than the jobs that might be sacrificed. Build back better. But for who? Some of you, some of us, are going to be sacrificed along the way. So, in the first week of Build Back Better CCP Sock Puppet Joe, he stopped the Keystone pipeline, as I've been sharing. And actually, he did a lot this week. More executive orders in the first week than any other president in history. In fact, more executive orders than most presidents in history. It's really funny because back, I think it was October or November, Joe Biden said that any president that needs to get things done by executive order is a dictator. Yeah, he said that. But anyway, I digress again. But on top of stopping the construction of the Keystone pipeline in order to build back better, he also rejoined the Paris Climate Accord through executive order. Even though, and this is a fact, you could look it up, he rejoined the Paris Climate Accord, even though the U.S. has already surpassed the goals laid out by the Paris Climate Accord. Did you know that? Well, the UN knows it because the UN put out a report. And according to Forbes magazine, this is incredible, folks. The UN says, coming from the UN, this is really incredible. The UN says America is already cutting so much carbon, it doesn't need the Paris Climate Accord. What? Let me quote from Forbes magazine, because this is incredible. The UN put out a report and it said for the United States, the real value in this report is as an advisory that it need not join the Paris Climate Accord. Too late. Biden's already done it. This report is evidence that instead the U.S. should just keep doing what it is doing to cut its own emissions. Oh, well, that was under Trump. Now, I won't go down that road again. Just you connect the dots, because this is laughable, my friends. This is laughable if it wasn't so serious. The UN reports that the U.S. is the most successful major country at mitigating its own pollution. Therefore, we don't need to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, but Joe didn't get the memo. But, so, why would he do that? Let's assume he got the memo. Let's assume his advisors said, Mr. President, we've already surpassed the goals of the Paris Climate Accord. We really don't need to join that. So why would Joe decide to go back into it anyway? Folks, China is exempt from the Paris Climate Accord. China is the biggest polluter on planet Earth. But they're exempt under the rules, regulations, and the parameters of the Paris Climate Accord. China is exempt. So why did Biden bring the U.S. back under its costly and meaningless and useless restrictions? Well, according to Dan Crenshaw, who's a congressman from Texas, let me quote from what Dan Crenshaw said. President Joe Biden's orders on the Keystone XL pipeline and Paris Climate Accords are going to end up increasing manufacturing in China, who can keep on polluting while our economy gets hurt. And all of this in the first week of his presidency of building back better. Was it merely a coincidence that it was the campaign slogan for the Biden campaign? Biden's cabinet picks, not all of them, but most of them, the ones that really matter in this area of energy and climate and COVID. Biden's cabinet picks are all on board with the Great Reset. His cabinet members were handpicked to help implement the plans and the agenda of the UN's 2030 project, which for all intents and purposes is the same thing. The UN's 2030 project and the Great Reset, they're hand in glove. They're essentially the same thing. They're working together. You could say that the UN's Agenda 2030 project is the political and governmental clout that is needed for the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, because the World Economic Forum doesn't have any political authority to implement its ideas, so that is where the UN comes in. And though the World Economic Forum doesn't hold any real power to get any of this done, however, literally every political and economic leader in the world is now working with them on this project. The World Economic Forum, as I said, is an organization that doesn't have any real power, but the leaders attending their meetings do, which is exactly why it's being coordinated with the UN 2030 agenda, and why the UN will be given more authority and clout by the new Biden administration. Let that sink in, because it's already happening. The UN will be given more authority and more clout over the United States because of the Build Back Better, Great Reset agenda. And as I mentioned in my last broadcast, and I'm going to just share this before I go to a break, because I'm going to build on this when I come back from my break. But as I mentioned in my last broadcast, John Kerry is going to be Joe Biden's new climate czar. And Kerry has been attending Great Reset forums for a long time now, for months and months. And speaking at a recent meeting a few months back, John Kerry said to the people there at the World Economic Forum, quote, "This is a big moment. The World Economic Forum is really going to have to play a front and center role in refining the Great Reset to deal with climate change and inequity, all of which is being laid bare as a consequence of COVID-19. Folks, it's not a conspiracy theory like the media wants to keep hammering home. The reason they don't want you to believe it is because they're in on it. And it's about corporatism. It's about control. It's about putting shackles. It's about putting shackles on everyday people. I'll have more when I come back. But speaking of shackles, here's a tune by Mary Mary called Shackles. Enjoy the music. I'll be back in a minute.
I don't mind though. I'm glad to be free. You know what I'm saying? Take them off, take them off.
Mary Mary with shackles. I'm just going to praise you. Take the shackles off my feet so I could dance. Folks, no matter what's going on in this world, Jesus Christ will and can and will take the shackles off your feet so you could dance, so you can praise him, so you don't have to be tied down by the circumstances. Welcome back. Andy White here. You are listening to Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7, 93.3 in Napeague, WEGQ 91.7 in Quogue. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM on the east end of Long Island. I want to get back into what I've got because I got so much. Let's see. Where should I go from here? Let me give you some quotes to tie things together and build on what I've already been saying. The United Nations Secretary General said this a while back. It was actually around April or May of last year. Quote, "We need to turn the recovery from COVID, we need to turn the recovery into a real opportunity to do things right for the future." And then the United Nations climate chief said this, "With this restart, a window of hope and opportunity opens an opportunity for nations to green their recovery packages and shape the 21st century economy in ways that are clean, green, healthy, safe, and more resilient." Okay, folks, I got a clip here. This clip I'm going to play for you right now. And I'm doing this for a reason. Because remember, you're going to keep hearing from the mainstream media how this is all a conspiracy theory. They want to gaslight you to the max. They really do. But this is an audio clip of Prince Charles addressing the World Economic Forum, and I got this audio clip off the World Economic Forum's website. So take a listen.
We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
Wait a minute, hold the tape. Did Prince Charles just say investing in nature as the true engine of our economy? Hasn't anyone told him that that's already happening? It's called oil. Yeah, oil. Oil comes from nature. And oil is the engine of our economy. It really is. So I think somebody needs to inform him of this little this issue right here. Anyway, I just thought I would interject that. I don't mean to digress, but let's get back to Prince Charles.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate.
I got to interrupt the poor prince once again. He's saying we've got to put nature at the heart of how we operate. Reminded me of Romans 1:25, where Paul wrote, "Who exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and worshipped and served the creation or the creature, rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen." See, they want to put nature at the center of our servitude. They want to put nature at the center of our devotion. It's the spirit of Antichrist. But sorry, I interrupted the prince. Let's get back.
We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
And the time to act is now. Last week I had mentioned to you I had some other quotes by John Kerry, who's going to be Joe Biden's climate czar. And I didn't have time last week. Now is a perfect time to get into some of these John Kerry quotes, in light of the fact that Prince Charles said, now is the time to act. Here's a quote from John Kerry from, I believe it was, I got a couple of quotes. This one I think was from, let's see here. I think this was when he was speaking at the World Economic Forum. But here's the quote. "It is up to us in positions of responsibility to act with greater speed than we are now." Former Secretary of State John Kerry, the lead U.S. negotiator on the Paris Agreement, told assembled business and government leaders during the opening ceremony of Climate Week in New York. Okay, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to see where this quote was from. This wasn't at the World Economic Forum. This was at a climate conference he had back this past November. Okay, let me continue with the quote. John Kerry said, "We need to aggregate our efforts like never before, recognizing that the business community can lead like no other." Just a few weeks ago at the World Economic Forum, John Kerry was asked this question. I don't have a clip for this. I copied this one out of an article I was reading. But here is what he said. A reporter at the World Economic asked him this question. Quote, "Are we expecting too much too soon from the new administration and new president? Or will they deliver right away, first day on these topics?" Now, this was, well, I guess obviously he's the new president, so it was really just a couple of weeks ago that he was asked this. Are we expecting too much too soon, or will they deliver? Here's John Kerry's answer. The answer to your question is no, you're not expecting too much. And yes, it will happen. And I think it will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. Yeah, the people like who got laid off already, that's just the beginning. John Kerry went on to say, in effect, the citizens of the U.S. have just done a great reset. This part really wants me to puke, honestly. Listen to what John Kerry said. In effect, the citizens of the U.S. have just done a great reset. We have done a great reset. It was a record level of voting. And boy, could I go down a bunny trail with this. And Joe Biden won with a record number of votes, blah, 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 blah. Folks, let me tell you something. I think a lot of you already know this, especially in this audience. But Donald Trump stood in their way. That's why the globalists and the corporatists and the UN, that's why, amongst other reasons, they hated him. He wasn't going to play their globalistic ideas. He wasn't going to play along with their globalistic ideas. Trump stood in their way. And now you know who's standing in their way? Conservatives and Christians and patriotic Americans stand in their way. And that is why we will be demonized and ostracized. We will be persecuted and afflicted unless we go along with them. And if you as a business do not capitulate and comply with their plans and agenda, you will be crushed. Okay? Here's a quote from John Kerry, and this ought to send chills down your spine. John Kerry, quote, "We need to create political accountability. We are building an army of experts from the United States and abroad, and we will isolate those who don't support our action." That is a quote of John Kerry. And I did hear him say that, not just read it out of context. Let that sink in. We will isolate those who don't support our action. Take a look around you, folks. What do you see happening? Does it look like a conspiracy theory, or does it look like this is exactly what it is that they've already begun to do? Welcome to World War Zero, because that's what John Kerry is calling it. World War Zero. The zero stands for zero carbon emissions, of course, because he's a climate change warrior. But the aim is simple. Identify obstructionists who are holding up progress and make those names known loud and clear, and then do what you got to do to destroy them. We need political accountability. And for those that are deemed enemies of their agenda, those who won't play by our rules, well, we'll crush them. Oh, he didn't say we'll crush them, but he did say we'll isolate them. What does that mean? You probably read this past week that some major retailers like Kohl's and Bed and Bath have stopped selling My Pillow from Mike Liddell. The Goya CEO this past week was silenced by his board. Goya Foods has voted to silence its pro-Trump CEO Robert Udenow following a televised appearance last week. He was on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromola. Can't get that out sometimes. But this is what the CEO of Goya said last week, and now he's been shut down by his board at Goya. He said this on Fox. I think this, and she was asking him about what he thought about the election. And he said, I think this is mission accomplished. Mission accomplished by the union, the partnership, the conglomerate of social media, big tech, big media, and government, big government, for ushering in the dawn of a new world order. This great reset last week, he said, with an unverified, this is the part that really got him in trouble, with an unverified election, and the big prize is the United States. For that, he's being silenced. For Mike Lindell's support of Donald Trump, he's being silenced. If you think the axing of Parler, of Mike Lindell, and Bob Udenow of Goya, if you think they're just random and disconnected things, you couldn't be more wrong. These things are completely connected, because this great reset corporatist agenda, my friends, it's like a huge spider web that's being all woven together to trap and to destroy all who will not comply. They are going to destroy small businesses for the big box stores. I don't have time to get into that today, but I will get into it probably maybe next week. The Great Reset, Build Back Better. These are not meaningless phrases. They're not just cute, catchphrases. Where it all leads to is here. Corporations will become the world's policy guides. Corporate elites will take over where governments now serve. And those with the most money will rule. And all your liberties, all of them, will be trampled underfoot. The past couple of weeks, a lot of people, a month or so, a lot of people were leaving Facebook to go over to MeWe. Oh, we're gonna run from Facebook and go over to MeWe. And I understand that. But now MeWe's cracking down. MeWe's administrators confirmed last week they would close so-called Stop the Steal groups and purge their content from its platform. So the cancel culture and the censorship cancer is now affecting me, we, as well. Now, I'm going to go to a break, but I want to wrap this portion of this broadcast up with this. Just to be clear, and make no mistake about it, this is all happening, and it's all coming into place, just as the prophetic scriptures prophesied and forewarned what the last days would be like. The Bible forewarned us, folks. This is a setting up. This is a setting up of the system of the beast. I did a broadcast about 2 years ago called The System of the Beast. Probably should update it. But go on over to Rumble or to my Rumble channel or to my YouTube channel and look up that broadcast called The System of the Beast. Because I explained how this networking was coming together and how it was going to be supplied and brought together by Chinese technology. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen quickly. They call it Agenda 2030. This is what they hope to have in place within the next 9 years. That's their blueprint. That's their game plan. Now, of course, I have some news for them. All that's going to go down is going to be according to God's game plan, God's blueprint, and in His timing. But understand this, what I always say, the political maneuverings and machinations of men and of nations are nothing more or less than the prophetic determinations of the living God. Stick around, folks. I'll be right back. Here's a tune by Crossing Jordan called All Things New. I'll tell you, the only great reset I'm waiting for is when Jesus returns. But we'll get back into that. Stick around. Of heart, mind, and soul. This is Open Up the Doors with Andy White here on Faith FM, WEGB 98.7, 93.3 in that peak, WEGQ 91.7 in Quag. I want to thank you all for tuning in, hanging out with me on this Thursday afternoon, broadcasting live from the east end of Long Island in Sag Harbor, New York, from the Faith FM studios. Hey, folks, if you've never subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go on over, look up, on Google it, or go to your YouTube channel and hit the search. Look up Andy White. Open Up the Doors. Please subscribe. Hit the little subscription button and also the little bell next to that subscription button. If you hit that bell, you'll get notifications telling you when we do these live streams. And I'm also on Rumble, by the way. We've migrated a lot of the library over to the Rumble video hosting site, and if you'd like to subscribe over there as well, I would appreciate that. We are waiting for the day when Rumble starts facilitating live streaming. From what I've heard, they're working on it, and at some point in time, I would probably do most of my live streaming when that day comes, probably over on Rumble, assuming they remain censorship free, because we've been talking about, and it's been happening. All these big tech companies, Facebook, MeWe, they shut Parler down, but YouTube, they're censoring and shadow banning, and they're kicking people off their platforms that don't agree with their agenda. In the meantime, we are on YouTube, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my Rumble channel. If you would like to do that, I would appreciate it so very much if you could do that. All right. Do I have any other things I need to mention at the moment here? I think not. Let me check my chat box here for a moment. See who's over there listening on YouTube right now. I see I got Connie Richardson. Hey Connie, thanks if you're still there. Thanks for joining in there. I don't know who Bella 48 is. I can't remember who. I do know who Bella 48 is, but I can't remember. I'm sorry. But thanks for tuning in, whoever Bella 48 is. Pro-Life Warrior is Michelle, that I remember. Hey, Michelle, thanks for joining in if you're still there. Folks, let me know where you are watching from, what part of the fruited plain or maybe around the spherical globe that you are listening to open up the doors and watching it here on YouTube. Let me know where you're from. All righty. There is an article I want to mention, too, by the way. Last week, when I was doing the broadcast, which was titled The Not So Great Reset, I really, like I said earlier in this broadcast, I really laid out a basic foundation of the corporatism and what it is they're trying to implement, how it's based in fascism, and how what they're doing isn't really anything new. It's this 21st century Great Reset is really the old 20th century corporate fascism that was started by Benito Mussolini. And I really go through all of that in last week's broadcast, if you didn't catch it. But I'm saying all that for this reason. The other day I saw an article put out by Daniel Greenfield, and it was such an excellent article. The title of the article was Democrats Outsource Political Repression to Corporate Monopolies. It's a great article. I have it posted on my Open Up the Doors Facebook page. You really need to go and read that article. That article was basically, I don't want to say in a nutshell, because it was more of an expansion of what I was saying on my broadcast last week. For those who might not have fully understood some of the things I was saying, although I was trying to be as simple as I could be, you got to read Daniel Greenfield's article, Democrats Outsource Political Repression to Corporate Monopolies, because it is a spot-on, right-on article. And if you read that article, you will really understand, you'll have a greater understanding of the foundation of the Great Reset, of the foundations of Build Back Better, of where this new administration wants to bring America into the sphere of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations with their 2030 agenda. You got to read the article. It's just really, really well written and very simple to understand. Build Back Better. We read in our Bibles that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Folks, the only one who's going to build anything back better is Jesus when he returns. First, when he renovates this planet Earth from the destruction that's coming. Oh, there's great destruction coming to planet Earth. The Bible calls it the Great Tribulation. It's going to be the destruction that man has brought upon himself, as well as the supernatural judgments of God that are going to be poured out upon this planet in the Great Tribulation. And the system of the beast will be the system that is set up during the Great Tribulation. But at the end of the tribulation, when Jesus returns and Jesus sets up his millennial kingdom, he's going to renovate planet Earth. He's going to build back better from the destruction that man caused. But even better than that, even greater than that, after the millennium, after the 1,000 years is finished, God is going to build back even greater. After the millennium of Jesus Christ, he's going to build back better with a brand new heavens and a brand new earth. That's the hope that we have as Christians. That no matter what's going on right now in this world, no matter how dark, no matter how gloomy it looks like it's getting, and it's going to be dark and gloomy, but it doesn't end there. We've got a hope. We've got a hope that we can lay hands on. In the meantime, until Jesus returns, in the meantime, until that new heavens and that new earth returns, nothing is going to get built back better. In fact, it's all actually going to get sucked down the drain. Hey, I hate to be Mr. Positive here, but I am being positive. I am positively sure of the Word of God. I am positively sure of the prophetic narrative, the prophetic framework of the Word of God. I am positive about that. Because this world is passing away, my friends. This world is passing away. But he who does the will of God will endure forever. That's what the Apostle John said. The world is passing away and the lust thereof, but he who does the will of God will abide forever. The downfall of the United States of America it's inevitable. and it's necessary for the events of the Bible to come to pass. However, we as Christians, brothers and sisters, we are to occupy, and we are to be about our Father's business until he returns for us. He has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of power and of love and of a sound mind. And we need to speak out in our communities. We need to get involved with the political situations of the day. We need to let our voices be heard in every strata of society, because people need the Lord. They need the Lord, and that is our calling. That is our primary directive. That is our prime directive, to preach the gospel to all creatures. No matter what's going on in the politics of our world, no matter what's going on, we need to preach the gospel, to snatch as many as we can from the precipice of hell. God has given us the business of sharing the gospel in every opportunity, because God is not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, I am out of time and I gotta go. But brothers and sisters, in the meantime, watch, stand fast in the faith, be brave, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. I'll be back next week for another edition of Open Up the Doors.